development is a nightmare outside the official channels like IGN because you're flooded with 100 takes about why insert demographic here are behind the fall of the industry or trying to gaslight you into thinking this woman is unattractive somehow. What am I talking about? The same thing you've probably seen a dozen other videos about, the woke content detector and its gaggle of feral offshoots that go after anything they deem woke, even though it seems pretty clear that what they mean by that word is there's a rainbow sticker in the game, and I hate those.
There's an anti-woke detector? What in the world? How did you find that? Bro, why is Pal World on the list? Contains overlay pro uses body type in place of biologic. Oh my god. Elden Ring, I'm dead. So I've seen a lot of people talking about anti-woke, and I'll admit over the past few years there have been a lot of people using the word woke and even misusing it. Notice that I do not use the word on this channel, and this video is probably the most you would have ever heard me use the word on this channel, at least not like that. I'm not saying that there's an issue per se with people using it, but I do understand how it can be overused to the point where anybody who would hear that word would just instantly write off anybody who utters it. First of all, where did the word woke come from? I think that's important to point out. Woke is supposed to symbolize somebody who is enlightened, who is awake and not sleeping, meaning they can see what's going on around them, and it somehow became synonymous with social justice warriors who were trying to be progressive and do good for mankind because they're awake and see the injustices against people. Jesus Christ.
Want to know how to make a trans puppy happy? Give them a bunch of intramuscular injection supplies. Yay!
Then a huge part of that group became radicalized to the point of being ridiculed because they were functioning as couch activists that would claim to have issues or take offense to things that they didn't actually care about, such as video games, movies, or parts of entertainment, specifically things that most people are okay with, because I know us females like to look sexy, but now it's a problem.
A special thing to be able to do. But when I started playing Valorant specifically and Overwatch, the female characters in those games are wildly sexualized.
They wanted to make sure these featured or included marginalized groups. However, whenever those franchises or entertainment made changes to do those very things, these people wouldn't even support those changes financially and would just move on to the next thing. So of course, because this has been pushed so hard, there have been lots of people who were vehemently against it. Actually, most of the general audience is against stuff like that. But then you have content creators who are just regular people talking about how ridiculous this is, because people have turned it into tokenization to the point of it being insulting and discriminatory, and in some cases, possibly harmful. Companies come out and actually discriminate against a whole demographic of people while also pushing negative stereotypes about the very people they claim they want to protect and represent better. The biggest corporations are usually guilty of this, such as Disney, Ubisoft, big tech platforms, big gaming platforms, what have you. And just so you know, I'm not out of my mind. Every time they add in a black character in a movie or a game, they have to put rap music.
I've been informed that they showed off Yasuke gameplay today in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and that when he fights, there's a hip-hop soundtrack only for him.
Not while I have breath in my lungs and a blade in my head.
Yeah, this is bad. I swear, sometimes the people calling others racist are like the most racist out of anyone. Like, these are the people at Ubisoft, by the way. I could definitely imagine the conversation at Ubisoft going like, Yasuke's black, right? So how do we portray that in a sensitive and inclusive kind of way? And someone else goes, I don't know much about black people, but maybe we just add hip-hop music?
Or how about the trailer for Gladiator 2, where Denzel Washington is a main feature? Again, they decide to add rap music to ancient freaking Rome.
Hands on the mausoleum floor.
I was on. Now I will control and impose.
What about Anthony Mackie as the new lead in the Captain America Brave New World trailer?
Compromise. Either you can't see that or you don't want to.
They talk about us.
The country is on the brink of war.
So naturally, people associate these platforms and the changes that they make in these directions as freaking woke. And so the people who are accusing them of being woke are labeled as anti-woke. Now here's the issue. There are two issues actually. One issue is that people have become so reactionary to any change that features so-called progressivism, such as race swapping characters, but only doing it when it's a white person or redhead, or gender swapping, but only doing it when it was a role held previously by a male character, specifically a white white one that they change into a woman.
Let me get this straight. The generations that grew up with Sidney Poitier, Bill Cosby, Morgan Freeman, Danny Glover, Whoopi Goldberg, Eddie Murphy, Denzel Washington, Wesley Snipes, Samuel L. Jackson, and Will Smith all of a sudden just decided they could no longer stand to see black or brown people take center stage in film and television. And at the exact moment this happened, every major media corporation simultaneously came to the same conclusion that the only remedy for this newfound bigotry was to race swap popular existing white characters instead of doing what they'd just been doing for 50 years, which was creating popular original black characters. That's the story we're going with?
So these reactionary groups, anytime they see a woman or a dark-skinned character, they immediately cry woke. This is not necessarily the case with everything, and they themselves have become radicalized as well when it comes to this. Not everyone. I still think the general audience has a point about the things that they take issue with, which are the bad writing and tokenization of characters for an easy buck. Corporations slap shallow written or very distasteful characters into these franchises thinking that they somehow did something, as if diversity is somehow something that they just came up with in the last 5 years. But a lot of the people who hate these types of entertainment moves will always cry the word woke and will always use it in their language, becoming reactionary to the point where anything that has a black person in it or a non-white person in it or a woman is automatically woke, which is not the case. For example, Earth Abides. It's a show that my husband and I just started watching, but we actually had to pause because the freaking dog dies in it and I just could not. Yeah, I couldn't. I don't even care if it's a spoiler. And I've heard people saying it looks like woke slop just because Bjorn from Vikings is with a black woman, but the original source material heavily implied that she was a black American woman anyway. So how is it woke? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's an original franchise that hasn't been on screen before. As far as I know, I could be wrong, but this is the only on-screen manifestation I've seen of this. So you can't say it's woke because they're not actually changing anything. They're just translating it to the screen straight from the book story. This kind of reactionary consequence is also because a lot of companies, particularly in recent years, have forgotten how to just write good characters and have been shoving in characters or writing really bad, shallow written characters, specifically black female leads, and making them look distasteful to the audience. Games like Dustborn.
The black kid dresses like a writer. Does he know anything?
You are racist.
And even shows like Scavenger's Reign, which I really like, by the way.
And face me, please. Tell me again, Levi, what are we doing here?
Our goal is to create a sustainable life where we can serve.
Along with its stupid atrocity, Robin Hood. I did a review of that as well, so you guys can see some of what I'm talking about. And honestly, most modern media nowadays, even the show that I absolutely love, Invincible, which they did tone down back a bit, will showcase the black women in the most aggressive and distasteful light.
This scene just baffles me because it changes everything. She said it herself, make the world you want to live in, and Mark's trying to make the world he wants to live in and he's a bad person? Okay, I get it. If you want to break up with him, go ahead. But don't try to make him feel like a terrible person for not spending time with you instead of saving people. Talk about some damn soup kitchen. Ain't nobody give a damn about no soup kitchen.
In shows like Doctor Who, if there was a white male character who was the star of the show, they always have to either replace him or bring in the female characters or non-white characters to school and educate or emasculate him.
That thing is wrapped around your cortex.
Yes, we know.
We know everything. Thanks.
And you know nothing? It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. She'd have understood.
We've got all that power, but there is a way to get rid of it. Something a male-presenting Time Lord will never understand.
Man, shut the fuck up.
If it's a black male character, they have to write him in such a way that he becomes emasculated by female characters or by the overall plot. It's so bad and so repetitive that people have now recognized it, and so yes, it isn't doing any favors. When people, such as myself, call out this lazy form of writing, it's easy for other people to probably make up their minds that, oh, I'm against wokeness or whatever the hell that means. And the thing is, anybody who calls out these issues in entertainment is automatically deemed anti-woke. And it seems like the whole term anti-woke is becoming a slur in the same way people misuse the term grifter. I've already covered this topic in a video, but let's clarify, right? Because some people actually don't know. A lot of people use words and don't actually know the definitions of the words or the origins of the words. Woke being one of those words. So again, the definition of a grifter is someone who tricks people into giving them money through fraud. And it's essentially synonymous with con artists, scammers, and swindlers. Since YouTube is free to watch, No one is being tricked into anything simply by choosing to watch a content creator. Even if you don't like what a creator is saying, they aren't selling you anything. Calling it a grift is completely inaccurate. Unfortunately, the term is often misused against people who are simply expressing their opinions or raising concerns that other people might disagree with, and the same misuse is happening with the term anti-woke. The whole thing is honestly so ridiculous. The thing is though, like, while I'm not a fan of the whole word woke, if it has come to represent these big corporations pretending to be progressive while failing to genuinely represent marginalized groups and making very uncreative, that's not a word, uncreative content that lacks creativity, then why is being anti-woke such an issue? The so-called anti-woke crowd is simply challenging these companies to be more creative and authentic, just like they were in the past. So the money that the audiences spend feels like it's not being wasted. It feels like it's being worthwhile spent. The term anti-woke is often used as a blanket dismissal of anyone that's criticizing media for poor storytelling, or when they develop the character sloppily or lazily or superficial diversity efforts. And instead of engaging with the substance of these arguments, this label, the anti-woke label, is just used to basically invalidate all of those concerns without actually having a discussion. Now, are there people who are going to view everything through that lens? Yes, of course. It's kind of like MGTOW. If you're a guy who's been hurt by a woman, you might start to interpret everything bad that women do in a negative light, or just in general. You may automatically amplify every single negative action by really bad women to an extreme and then seek out other people to then reinforce how you feel, which is a very human thing. People do it with everything. If you like something, you're going to find other people who like it. You're going to find your tribe. That's part of humanity. But that also doesn't mean that people should just dismiss everybody who has those concerns by just lumping everybody under the same blanket umbrella term as those who are highly radicalized by it. This brings me to a post that was on Reddit about one of those poorly sold games called Dragon Age Veilguard, which apparently flopped. And the post says this: the reason why Veilguard didn't sell well. Unpopular opinion. I think Veilguard's reputation just got damaged by the anti-woke crowd even before the game came out. If you go to YouTube and search for Veilguard, you'll see a vast majority of the content being created for this game is by drama queens who farm hate from every progressive media. Their Veilguard videos are getting the most views and likes. When a potential customer sees this negative environment online, their first thought would be, maybe this game isn't worth buying. People will always say stuff like this doesn't affect sales much, but I really do think it's having an effect, especially in recent years where hating on progressive games, movies, and TV shows has become such a popular thing to do. So this is an incognito, and I just put in Dragon Age Veilguard. We're getting IGN top, gamer ranks, truth about the reviews. I played for 5 hours, the writing is insane, cutscene, pick the best class, and you're getting a mixture of things here, so I think it depends on what you're watching, because the algorithm usually is tailored towards whatever you watch. So that might be why this poster is seeing mostly hateful reviews. I mean, that's probably one side of it, and yeah, while your concern might seem valid on the surface, it kind of doesn't hold up when you consider examples of progressive games that have succeeded despite the initial skepticism or people coming out against it. In a lot of these cases, even some people talking negatively about a game, the majority will still enjoy it if it stands out on its own merit. A game's success ultimately depends on the quality of the game, its execution. Does it resonate with its audience rather than just purely, oh, it's progressive? If a game or company lost the trust of its customers, like Ubisoft, for example, right? That's when you'll see overwhelmingly negative reviews, because these people have been putting out, there's a pattern of them just putting out bad, sloppy products after bad, sloppy products. This is similar to shopping on Amazon. When you see an overwhelming amount of negative reviews on a product, you're gonna probably avoid buying it because those reviews suggest others have already tried it and found it lacking. And this basically means, or is telling you as a potential buyer, to save your money, right? That it's bad, that you're probably gonna regret buying it. You can still try to, no one's stopping you from doing that, but these people bought it and did not like what they saw or what they experienced. That said, while this argument could probably apply, you could probably give it merit that, you know, you could, before a game is released, you know, judging the trailers and stuff, maybe it's not good to make that negative review or give it a negative review if you don't like the game just based off of that. I mean, you could still say you don't like the trailer or the game looks like ass to you. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can only hold on to that argument for so long because things do change once players do have access to it. People who actually play the game, showcase the game, or they're providing reviews and explaining their reasoning in depth, or people are able to actually see the gameplay. Yeah, you're not hiding anything. You're not tricking people because they can see it with their own eyes at this point. It's one of those rare cases where someone can buy a product and actually experience it without actually playing it. They could see, wow, this really is kind of crap. And if the criticism comes from progressive voices pointing out these legitimate flaws, then it has nothing to do with the supposed anti-progressive crowd, because there are a large swath of people who have bought this game that didn't like it, who are progressive, and the game was just asked to them. Black Myth Wukong is an example. It could be seen as progressive because it has a lot of like inclusive characters, sort of, but it is widely praised. And a lot of progressive games over the years have been both popular and well received because they were executed with quality and creativity. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 was a kick-ass game. That's a very, very progressive type of game, if you want to say that. And people loved it across the board. Of course, there were some people who didn't like it. Maybe it wasn't their type of game, but it was genuinely well received. Where is your excuse for that? So just dismissing the criticism by like attributing it just being crowd resistant to progressivism or something, that's not a proper excuse. It really is about the execution of the game and how well it delivers on its promises. Another example of this is when people were calling House of the Dragon woke before it even came out, just because it apparently race swapped the Valerians. Honestly, I thought that reaction was a little unwarranted, because from what I know, House of the Dragon had never been shown on an on-screen platform before, so there wasn't really any established visual canon for it. But what really shut down those initial complaints was the fact that the show turned out to actually be freaking fire. At the time it was released, it showcased really strong creativity, superb writing, compelling characters. Even some of the people who were initially screaming woke because Valerians were portrayed as black characters eventually admitted that the show was well made, and they completely toned that down and dropped that at the wayside. They didn't care anymore. Several people even agreed that making the Valerians black worked for the story because it actually made it easier to follow who was related to who, especially when it came to the biracial children, and the visual differences helped distinguish the characters. And it's not like this is something new for the Game of Thrones universe. We've already seen in the lore that people from different areas or bloodlines have distinct traits, like the Dorne, or the specific line of Targaryens with this platinum blonde, whitish blonde hair. So incorporating the Valerians' appearance into the narrative made sense and fit within the world. Notice how the show took off and did incredibly well despite the initial outcry from the so-called anti-woke crowd. Gee, it's almost like, the products have to stand on their own regardless of what people are saying about them, and that determines their success. I mean, you can have a trailer that looks like total ass, and yet if the movie itself is actually good, the few people who do spend money in it are going to spread the word. They're going to tell everyone it's worth watching, even if the trailer was bad. Remember the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer? When the first design came out, people were absolutely ripping it to shreds, and rightfully so. It looked like freaking trash. But the director actually listened to the feedback, changed the design. He told his whole team, no, this is not being received well. We're wasting our time. Go back to the drawing board. And look at it now. It's a successful franchise that's apparently doing really well. And that wouldn't have happened if the director and those people had ignored the criticism. And this whole trend of people throwing around the term anti-woke just to lump together anybody who has an issue with certain medias, it's not actually helping. People have been interpreting media in their own way for decades, or from the dawn of time, from the dawn of art. And suddenly calling them anti-progressive for voicing their opinions only makes the divide worse. It's not actually making a push for progressivism, and honestly, it could probably end up pushing people farther away instead of bringing them closer to these ideas. And you have other people on Reddit that are saying, oh, I don't understand all the hate, but just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it invalidates everybody else's reasons for disliking the thing that you like. They're only looking at things on a small scale and not considering all the other games people genuinely like. I'm really sure that these same people making these posts have games that they hate too. Regardless of how much they dislike or even claim a game is offensive, those games sometimes still do well. And sometimes they don't. And you do straight up having one person in the thread even admitting that the announcement trailer was horrible. And that doesn't stop someone from liking the game, and it doesn't invalidate their enjoyment. As you see here, the person said they still love the game. And here's another another point that they made, which I agree with, which is what the next person in reply to that person said. If you're playing the game, genuinely enjoying it, and feel like it's not getting enough love, then you need to support it. As this person said, I think there's a lot of us who play the game who are generally pretty quiet about it too. I don't get all the hate, just stumble into the sub, which seems aggressively positive in it for most threads, but my sincere reaction was pretty unenthusiastic. It's good, it's fine, I enjoyed it. I don't feel bad that I played it, but I wouldn't go out of my way to recommend it, you know? I mean, that says a lot, but if you're finding that the majority of people dislike something while enjoying other games, then it might be, yes, I know this is hard for some people to accept, but could be that the product is just bad or not favorable with the general audience. And guess what? The general audience isn't online searching for supposed hate groups. They see a trailer, most of them probably want to avoid spoilers, probably, and they decide whether or not to play the game. For those that are participating in the Reddit post, seeing all the hate clearly didn't stop them from buying and enjoying the game, did it? If enough people genuinely enjoy a game and they talk about it, word of mouth is still very powerful. And by word of mouth, I mean like actual conversations in real life with real people, not just people online. Hearing recommendations from their friends, their family, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, dog, people you trust, that often influences purchases and people buying stuff more than you just hearing it from some random dude on the internet. On the flip side, though, if people watch gameplay or playthroughs online and see shallow writing or uninteresting content, they're not going to want to buy it. Most gamers want titles that they can enjoy, that they're going to have fun with, especially when it comes to choice-driven games, which are honestly becoming harder to find these days. I seriously had considered at one point buying Dragon Age the Veilguard, but after watching a playthrough, not influenced by what others were saying, yes, I did find the writing to be shallow. It just did not appeal to me personally. There are things I found really cringy about the game, considering how much it cost to make it and the fact that it was developed by a big company. It should have been better for what they're charging for it. Like, the graphics are okay, but the writing is very subpar, as is the case with a lot of modern media. Maybe I'm just jaded, I don't know. Does that make me anti-woke? But I like how this user, Jops817, handled it though. They didn't let the negativity others had about the game affect how much they enjoyed it, and it's a good attitude to have. He was like, yeah, I really enjoyed my time with it, even though I have my gripes about it too. I haven't recommended it to anyone yet. However, it is always fun to nerd out with people IRL. When I learned they also played and enjoyed the game. And you see, that says a lot too, because if these people that are saying they enjoyed the game don't feel the need to recommend it to other people, then it can't have been that good. Like, then why are you getting mad at people for not liking it? The people who like it and claim they do and want to support it are not even doing that by recommending the game to others. Like, if I like a game, I'm going to tell people, you need to play this game, bro. Play this game. Like, everyone is always saying, this game is so good. They like it, but they don't even want to tell other people to play it, and they wouldn't recommend it. There's nothing urging them or motivating them to even want to recommend the game to anyone. And most of them seem to be just saying, it was all right. I liked it. I'm not mad that I played it. Like, they're trying super hard to be nice. And so if you look at the contrast for the people who like the game and that's what we're getting, you can probably understand why people hate it. There are also things that I love that people absolutely hate, and they're widely hated. I don't attack or hate the audience for disliking them because they have their reasons, just as I have mine for liking them. It's hard to take people seriously when they're trying to invalidate other people for disliking something. They're quick to criticize negativity. Yeah, oh, you don't like something, something's wrong with you. But they never seem to have a problem when people express their enjoyment of something, or if they're saying that it's positive. Not everyone who expresses concerns or that dislikes something automatically equals anti-progressivism or equals conservatism or right wing. I don't know why that's now a talking point with people. It's very cringy and very weird. I personally like to point out flaws because I enjoy making fun of things, but I'm also very passionate about gaming and entertainment. I want these industries to make interesting and creative things. Will I still poke fun at things? Yes, but I'll also call out issues with writing or character development. For example, I absolutely love the Land Before Time series, but I still poke fun at it. And the later movies have so many issues and the writing just fell off, but I still enjoy the franchise. It has a very big fan base, and those flaws didn't stop it from being popular. In fact, from what people told me doing my whole little segment of me reviewing all of the Land Before Time movies and poking fun at them actually made them want to go back and watch those movies. dear God. Bruh. I can't even say anything because I've done that. I've done that in the privacy of my own home. I would never be caught freaking dead uploading that to the internet for everyone to see. Oh my God. Anyway, so yeah, as I said, just screaming, oh, everyone's anti-woke. That I don't agree with that. And as I said, I don't think that's the right approach. And if you do call these people anti-woke, what exactly does that achieve? Like, on the flip side, if we label everything woke, what does that achieve either? Like, I get why people might be against it. Like, on the surface, it seems like rejecting anything progressive, which, sounds bad, right? Like, why would you be rejecting progressivism? You're supposed to want to progress as a species and to become better for humanity and for the world, right? But before jumping to conclusions, I think it's important to actually think about like what anti-woke really means and what fits under that label. Ask yourself this: are people who are anti-woke against progressivism itself, or do you just not agree with their take on things? If someone dislikes something that you happen to like, calling them anti-woke isn't accurate. It's kind of lazy, like shorthand. It's kind of like you're slapping a label on someone without taking the time to really understand their perspective. Now, if someone's entire brand, like their entire YouTube channel or whatever, has been about tearing down what they define as woke, and that's a word they're always using, and they're super consistent about it, okay, fine. You could probably argue that they're anti-woke in the way they define it. But here's the thing. If woke was just another word for progressivism, then yeah, calling someone anti-woke would just mean that they're anti-progressive. I guess that would make sense, but that's not how the term is being used right now. Woke has become basically like a shorthand for this specific type of modern media or ideology that feels very shallow and lacking creativity, just really corporatized and ironically kind of discriminatory. It's about appearances rather than substance. It's like, oh, we don't want to look racist, more than, hey, let's create a good story and just good characters like we've been doing. And here's the thing, if woke is tied to those things, wouldn't being anti-woke actually align more with progressivism? Really think about it. Like, calling out shallow, corporate, lack of creativity or discriminatory behavior is more in line with what progressivism was originally about: standing up for people, questioning the system, pushing real and meaningful change. So in a weird way, being anti-woke might be the new woke. If woke used to mean being socially aware, fighting for justice, and now it's just a hollow buzzword for corporate virtue signaling, then rejecting that could be the next evolution of progressivism. It's like the whole thing is just flipped around on the other side of the coin.
What's your birthday? 11/1/96.
McMullen's your last name?
Yes.
As for Dragon Age the Veilguard and why it didn't work, from what I've gathered, a lot of the criticism centers around the game's lack of immersion and depth. Players kind of felt like the world wasn't lived in. The NPCs were bleh. People said things like, oh, the cities felt like backdrops and living environments. The interactions didn't feel like they were realistic. There's one player that noted that the game lacked immersion in every aspect, like the NPCs acted like set pieces and active participants in the world. This is actually a very well thought out review. Again, like I said, also people took issue with the game's tone and writing, and some felt that the political messaging was heavy-handed and came across as preachy, and that completely pulled them out of the experience. This article from Forbes highlighted that the game's clumsy and overt political messaging did more harm than good, making it feel like a self-parody than a genuine narrative. And they're giving examples like, oh, better ways to do it. Now, regarding the whole anti-woke criticism, I think that we should put things in perspective. While yes, we have some very loud voices on the internet that were quite loud about the game being too woke and labeling the characters or storylines as overly toxically progressive, you could argue that these opinions come from a small, albeit vocal minority. And the game's director basically addressed this by suggesting that people who were criticizing it were uninformed and that they were effing tourists, which implied that they weren't genuine fans of the series, which is kind of crazy when you really think about it. When these people are giving all this attention and ire towards the supposed anti-woke crowd, it doesn't give a full picture of how the game was actually received. There are a lot of players, like the ones in that Reddit thread, that were like, oh, we like the inclusive features and all the diverse characters and the storylines. And most of the mixed reviews came down to issues with the gameplay and how the story played out, or the writing, and whether it felt immersive or real. Yes, the supposed anti-woke crowd can be loud, but they are part of the conversation. If you're only focusing on their critiques and nobody else's, or you're just like, well, I'm just gonna watch those people and that those are the only people having an issue with this, then you're missing the bigger picture. You're not being honest about the general reception. But then the thing is, like, when you look later on in this Reddit post, you see people starting to be honest about situations that ended up hurting the game as well. Like, they're trying so hard to excuse it. Like, so I don't know. I just think it's important to be honest about, like, the total discourse around the whole thing and not just giving too much credit to the people that just hated it. Also, give credit to the people who dislike these products that had legitimate reasons as to why. Like, aside from just saying, oh, gay person equals woke, or black person equals woke, woman equals woke. You have to have legitimate reasons behind that, just like you wouldn't buy something based on a review that says, oh, great product, whether the review is good or bad. You should also approach the reviews of games the same exact way. Use your common sense.
Use your common sense.
I thought we as a nation were smarter, but I guess not.
I don't know, be willing to accept that even after all of that, if a product just doesn't work, or if people genuinely hate it, then it might just be a bad product. Or, like, I know it's hard to conceptualize. It's just probably just bad. Or maybe it's not the right crowd or the right time for it to be released. Or again, maybe it's just total ass. That's okay to admit, even if you like it. It doesn't take anything away from you to do so.
Tash is one of the most unlikable characters I've come across in any RPG.
He seems nice.
Throughout the game, Tash actively harasses my other teammates for what they are.
Sorry I called you a skull.
Or what they wear.
So what I wear is a problem for you?
And it sounds unbelievable, but I have to actually step in and tell Tash not to bully my teammates.
Emmerich would appreciate not being bullied. Ugh.
Turns out Tash is non-binary.
So I'm non-binary.
And wants everyone to refer to them with their pronouns instead of she/her. But I find it a bit hypocritical if Tash hasn't respected my other teammates at a basic level for who they are.
So what do y'all do? Right now, we're trying to take down evil god monsters and their blighted dragons. Gods are using the blight to force dragons to attack people. That's messed up. Somebody needs to stop them. No shit! What do you think we're here for? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.